Hello and welcome to Teance Tea Lab. My name is Darius Mokaddam, and today we are here in Berkeley, California on 4th Street at Teance Tea Shop. And today we're going to talk a little bit about oolong teas. Besides from pu'er, oolongs are kind of this mysterious category that falls somewhere. Some people say, oh, oolongs are black teas, and some people say, oh, oolongs are green teas. What is an oolong tea? The word oolong has a couple different meanings. One of them, oolong, means black dragon. If you look at some of the dark, long, twisted oolong leaves, they actually look like a long black dragon. It also can mean mistake. When they made oolongs, they say the first time they made them, it was actually a mistake, and then it actually turned out to be successful. So oolong also can mean mistake. So today we want to jump a little bit into what actually is an oolong and then how to properly steep the different types of oolongs. Oolongs are oxidized teas. Now, I've even read in some books that oolongs and black teas are fermented, and that's untrue. Fermentation is when you allow a bacterial development to happen on your teas. Pu'ers are fermented. But oxidation is like when you bite into an apple and that apple starts to turn brown. That's iron in the apple mixing with oxygen in the air. So oolong teas have the same function. All tea starts out this kind of bright, vibrant green color. If you ever go to China or Taiwan, which I would highly suggest, make sure to visit some tea farms and you'll just see hillsides and hillsides of bright, lush color, and it's so green and vibrant and beautiful. But they take those bright, vibrant green leaves and they rub the edge of them, and they tear and they bruise and they start to oxidize, just like that apple starts to oxidize. It starts to turn brown, and sometimes you get a little bit of orange or purple colors can come out, but that's the oxidation occurring now in the tea leaf. 20 to 80% oxidized is an oolong. So that's a very wide range of oxidation that you can pull out all different kinds of flavors and characters and aromas. So green teas, unoxidized. Black teas, 80 to 100% oxidized. Oolongs, 20 to 80% oxidized. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to properly steep lighter, greener oolongs and darker, more robust oolongs. Now, most of us are used to what I call Chinese restaurant oolongs. And those are those really dark, over-smoked, super roasty, almost burnt style oolongs that can be bitter and flat and really unenjoyable. But there's this whole other category of oolongs that are light and floral and aromatic and just really, 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 really good. Now, when you're steeping teas, you want to use different water temperatures. For oolongs, I like to use anywhere between boiling and about 195 degrees. Some people will say, well, all oolongs, you can just use boiling water. But for these lighter, greener, more floral oolongs, I actually like to use around 195. I find it pulls out a little less astringency, less bitterness. You get more of the floral quality that comes out. You get more of the aromatics that come out on it. So what I'm going to use today to make that oolong is a gaiwan. I've showed these in some of my other videos. This is kind of the connoisseur's tool for making tea, and I think this is one of the best tools to make any type of tea. So first thing, like I've taught in the videos, what we do is we warm up our vessel. We want to get it nice and hot first. So I've already got my preset water. We got it here at 195, and we're going to add a little hot water. What this is doing is because the water is already the right temperature, we want to warm up this porcelain. And the porcelain was actually going to steal a little bit of that heat away, and we don't want it to be too hot, but we also don't want it to be too cold. So I just warm it up first. Use that same water to warm up my server. Now the reason I chose the gaiwan for the lighter oolong is because this thin porcelain will release just a little bit of the heat. And again, with these lighter oolongs, you don't want it super hot boiling. So the thin porcelain releases a little bit of the heat. And that's why I chose the light green oolong for the gaiwan. And then later, I'm going to use my yixing pot for the darker oolongs. So now that I've warmed it up, I'm going to add my leaf. This particular tea is called baozhong. Take a look at these leaves. These are really big, beautiful green leaves. And this one almost falls into a category all on its own because it's so lightly oxidized. You see, you can't even really see much of the brown or even the yellow with these leaves. This is only oxidized anywhere from 10 to 20%. So I was telling you that oolongs are anywhere from 20 to 80. This kind of falls in its own category. They even called it blue tea at one time because it's just barely oxidized, but technically, excuse me, because it does have some oxidation, it is still an oolong. And I just love this tea on hotter, warm days. It just really comes out quite nicely. So I've warmed up my gaiwan. Now I'm going to go ahead and add it. Usually I'm going to measure it by weight. I've done it so many times. I know how much 3 to 5 grams looks like, and that's the appropriate amount for anywhere from a 6 to 8 ounce pot or gaiwan. Now I'm going to do the one step that a lot of people miss, and that's waking up the tea. I add a little hot water and I dump it right off. This preps our tea for steeping. It opens it up. It gets it ready to be drunk. We don't lose anything. We actually gain something on the first steep by waking the tea up. This also allows me to appreciate the fragrance. I love the smell of teas, especially oolongs. Oolongs have incredible fragrances. Now, baozhong comes from Taiwan. Taiwan is this amazing tropical island that has these tropical fruits and tropical flowers and just incredible fragrances. So they say that baozhong carries the fragrance of Taiwan. So when you rinse it, you not only open the tea up, but now you can appreciate the fragrance. And I get like pineapples and mangoes and gardenias that really come out on this tea. Now my tea is ready to steep. I can add my water. Again, 195 degrees, and I pour in a circular motion. I find this is really important. You don't want to concentrate the heat in one area. You want to spread it all around. Put my lid on top to capture, and now we wait just about 1 minute. With tea, you can choose how long to steep it. There's no right or wrong way. If you steep it longer, it's going to become stronger. You're going to pull out more tannins. It's going to be deeper, richer. If you like it that way, that's okay. If you like it light and clean and sweet, steep it a little bit less, maybe only 1 minute, and that's okay. You could even do less. I like to warm up my teacups as well. I always have a little cup here for you guys at home that are drinking a little bit of tea with me. Now with the gaiwan, I was saying this is the connoisseur's tool, and you can use the lid to actually manipulate the leaves. You can push the leaves and actually extract and bring out more flavor. I can also push the leaves back and see the color. The color is a really good indication for when the tea is ready. I have made this tea so many times, I just kind of know intuitively how strong I like it and when that tea is ready. You can also smell the lid. Wow, so sweet. Almost reminds me of like a pie crust, like sweetness to it. Typically when I steep baozhong, I really like it to be this color. It's kind of darker yellow, pale green. Here at Teance Tea Lab, we are really going into the subtle science of the experience of the tea. And we found that you can use any types of cups that'll give you a different experience. So different cups are appropriate for different teas. And this cup that is fluted out is actually going to give you a better experience for oolong, where shallower cups like these are actually better for pu'er. Pu'er retains its heat a lot more than oolong does, and if you really want to taste a tea, you want it to cool down. So I use these shallower cups for pu'er, and then the fluted cups, which are going to help me to aerate the tea for baozhong, because baozhong and other oolongs are so complex that you want to spread that liquid all over the palate, engage all the taste buds, and really get the full profile. I want to taste everything that's in this tea. And it's not just a single note. It's not just floral, but it's floral with this little hint of fruitiness. I also want to pick up on that buttery texture. There's so much going on in an oolong. And I think that's why oolongs are really the connoisseur's teas, because they take the most effort and skill on the farmer's end to make, but in turn, their character is also the most complex. There's the most aromas and flavors going on just in this little sip. Cheers to you at home enjoying a nice cup of baozhong. My coworker Trevor here has arrived on his daily shift, and he's kind enough. I think he's trying not to come in the video, but he's welcome. You guys probably know him for coming down and seeing Trevor. This season's baozhong to me is absolutely one of the best teas that we've gotten all year. I guess and say hi to Trevor. It's really buttery, it's really creamy, it's really smooth. There's a lot of the sweet floral quality that has come through. And I really love baozhong for those of you guys that like that lighter floral quality. And you'll see this tea has just started to open up. Those leaves are just starting to unfold. And I could re-steep this tea another 4 or 5 times and they'd start to fill up my whole gaiwan. And each time I steep it, you're going to get a different layer of flavor. So oolongs are really meant to have 5, 6, 7, 8 steepings, and you peel back these different profiles, these different layers of flavor with each steeping. All right, now we're going to go to the complete opposite. We're going to go to the darker oolongs, the heavily oxidized oolongs, but we're going to do a special one. Again, I was telling you, most people are familiar with this, what I call restaurant-grade oolongs that are really dark and over-roasted. Now, I love dark, heavy, roasted oolongs, and most of our oolongs here at Teance, even though they're dark, even though they're roasty, they're not over-roasted. They still carry complexity. So it's not just a single note. You don't just have smokiness. You might have smokiness with a little hint of woodiness, with a little butterscotch at the finish. There's still layers of flavor, and it's the farmer's skill to not over roast it, but to do a slow roast so you don't mask the essence of the tea leaf, because there's a lot going on in there. You don't want to mask that, even though you're trying to attain this darker, heavier, roasty body. But for today's tea, we're going to do something called honey jialong, and this is one of my top all-time favorite teas. It's a dark oolong, but it shows up almost like a light oolong. The body is dark, but it's fruity and it's floral, and there's this honey quality to it that I just absolutely love. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites. So take a look at these leaves. And I chose this one intentionally because the rolling style is actually very similar to baozhong, and where it's this kind of longer, twisted style, but it shows up in its character totally different. So look at these. Look how dark those ones are compared to our baozhong, right? Same tea, just oxidation. Just remember our example of that apple. You bite it, and it starts to oxidize. You bruise the edge of the leaf, you tear the leaf, oxygen hits it and it starts to oxidize, giving it a darker body. And these are both the same exact leaf, different varietal, but they are both Camellia sinensis leaves. So just like wine, where all wine comes from grapes, but you have different types of grapes and different ways of processing it, tea is the same way. It's all one plant, just depends on the varietal type and how you process it. So same thing here for using the Yixing. You're going to warm up your teapot first. I do this for the same reason I warmed up my gaiwan. I don't want the clay to steal any of the heat away. I add my leaf. What's the next step? Rinse the tea. Wake it up. Now with this one, because it's a darker oolong, I do actually want a little bit of a hotter water. I don't want the 195. I want more the 205, 210. And some people say, well, what's the difference between 195 and 205? Try it. Take the same tea home, use 205-degree water, and then use 195. You notice subtle differences. And here at Teance Tea Lab, we want to be really precise. So I'm going to heat this water up just a little bit so we can get it hotter for this darker oolong. Now we'll wake up our tea. Dump that right out. Again, now I want to appreciate the fragrance and the aromas. Get a lot of that cooked honey-like fragrance. There's also a little bit of like an orange blossom that really comes through. For anyone who's ever had mead honey wine, I get a lot of that in this Jiaolong. And this grapey note, this bright, fruity, like ripe grapes that comes out. So, so delicious. Okay, now I'm going to add my hot water. Again, I use just about 3 to 5 grams to my 6 to 8 ounce Yixing teapot. Going to let it sit just about 1 minute. This Yixing teapot that we're using is special because we have customized it to honey Jiaolong. So Yixing is purple sand clay, and it absorbs flavor and fragrance. And when you make a tea in it over and over and over, it actually takes on the characteristic of that tea. So since this is one of my favorite teas, we customized this Yixing pot to that tea, and it's actually starting to take on that character of the honey Jiaolong. Rinse and warm up my cups. Add a little hot water. A little pro tip, you can put a little bit of hot water over your Yixing. This makes it nice and hot, really seals in that flavor. And now we're ready to pour. Really be sure to get all the little bits of liquid out of your Yixing teapot. Little bits of water sitting in there will keep the tea steeping. Also, taking the lid off and allowing the steam to come out is really important. If you trap that steam in there, your tea actually continues to steep in that steam, and you'll lose flavor on the second and the third steeping. So take the lid off, allow the steam to come out, but once all the steam has come out, go ahead and put the lid back on again, because you actually don't want too much air to get in there. Look at this. Look at this color. Beautiful, honey-like color to it. Now I know at home we're taught not to slurp your tea. We're taught it's rude, it's inappropriate. But when you're sipping fine artisanal tea, it's not only appropriate, it's encouraged to slurp the tea. You are missing out on what this tea has to offer if you're not slurping it. The oils on this tea linger on my palate. It's like it's coating my palate with honey and molasses. It's so, so sweet. Almost after I swallow and then I take a deep breath, it's like I'm breathing in that orange blossom with that sweet honey on my palate. It's a magical experience. I absolutely just love this tea. This tea is made by one of our farmers named Mr. Chen. He's one of the oldest farmers with some of the most experience, and I have so much admiration and respect for him. He's so committed to his craft, and he's already at the top of his game, but he continues to try to learn more and experiment and do things different and get even better. And I think year after year, his jiaolong is better. And for any tea connoisseur, if you have not tried honey jiaolong, it is an absolute must. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. We do hope you will check us out. Be sure to subscribe and like our channel. We'll be doing videos on how to properly steep green teas, pu'ers, white teas, and I'll put links to purchasing these teas in the comment section. Thanks again. Enjoy your tea.